The story name is What If Naruto Traveled in My Hero Academia. So without wasting time, let's start the series. What was once a monument to shinobi history, the towering statues of Hashirama Senju and Madara Uchiha locked in eternal combat, now lay in rubble across the churning waters below. The waterfall that had given the valley its name had been vaporized in the final exchange, and the forest beyond had been flattened for miles in every direction. Two figures lay broken at the center of the devastation. Naruto Uzumaki's blue eyes fluttered open, the world swimming in and out of focus. His right arm was bent at an unnatural angle, and every breath sent lightning bolts of pain through his cracked ribs. Above him, the sky swirled with unnatural colors, remnants of the reality-warping forces that had been unleashed in his final battle with Sasuke Uchiha. Sasuke! Naruto's voice came out as a rasping whisper. He turned his head slowly, the movement costing him dearly. 20 meters away, Sasuke lay in an equally ruinous state, his remaining arms stretched toward Naruto as if even in defeat, he still reached for their impossible connection. Blood pooled beneath them both, seeping into the cracked earth. The battle was over. They had won against Kaguya, saved the world, ended the fourth great ninja war. But they couldn't save each other. Some wounds went too deep for even the most powerful jutsu to heal. Naruto thought of Sakura, waiting for them both. Of Kakashi-sensei. Of Iruka. Of everyone who had ever believed in him. Would they understand? Could they forgive him for this final failure? A tear traced a path through the dust on his cheek. I wanted to bring you back, he choked out. I promise, Sakura-chan. I promise. Sasuke's visible eye, one Sharingan, one Rinnegan, flickered toward him. For a moment, something soft passed through that gaze. Regret, perhaps. Or maybe just exhaustion. Naruto, Sasuke breathed. You always were the dead last. A sound like tearing reality split the air. Both ninjas felt it simultaneously, a pull, a vacuum, as if the universe itself was taking a sharp intake of breath. The swirling colors in the sky began to spin faster, coalescing into a vortex directly above the valley. What is that? Naruto tried to move, tried to summon chakra that was no longer there. Sasuke's Rinnegan dilated. Space-time, rupture. Our battle, the dimensional instability from Kaguya, it's... The vortex descended. It struck like a physical force, slamming into the battlefield with enough power to lift the broken bodies of both shinobi and hurl them skyward. Naruto screamed, not from pain, but from the sudden sensation of being torn apart at the molecular level. Colors without names flooded his vision. Sounds without frequencies deafened him. For one eternal moment, he saw Sasuke floating beside him, their hands reaching for each other across impossible distance. Then darkness. Tashinori Yagi, All Might, the symbol of peace, stood at the edge of the crater, his jaw hanging open in an expression most of Japan would have found deeply unheroic. The meteor had fallen 30 minutes ago, crashing into a closed park on the outskirts of Musattafa City. By some miracle, or perhaps by the design of forces beyond mortal understanding, no civilians had been harmed. The park was under renovation, closed to the public for repairs after a villain attack the previous week. But what All Might found at the bottom of that crater defied all explanation. It's a child, he whispered, his voice carrying in the sudden silence that had fallen over the rescue workers. There's a child down there. The other heroes on scene exchanged bewildered glances. A child. In the center of a meteor strike. Unharmed. All Might leaped down without waiting for backup, his powerful legs carrying him effortlessly to the crater floor. The heat was intense, the kind of residual thermal energy that should have incinerated anything organic within a 100-meter radius. Yet there, curled in a small depression at the exact center of the impact zone, lay an infant. The boy couldn't have been more than a few months old. His skin was unmarked by burns or bruises. A simple orange blanket, somehow completely intact, was wrapped around his tiny form. His eyes were closed, his chest rising and falling with the peaceful rhythm of deep sleep. And wrapped protectively around him, forming a perfect circle of white fur, was a fox. All Might froze. The creature was massive, easily the size of a small car, with pristine white fur that seemed to glow in the fading light. 9 tails, each one longer than the last, curled around the infant in an unmistakable gesture of protection. Golden eyes fixed on All Might with an intelligence that bordered on terrifying. A fox? All Might's voice cracked. With 9 tails? The creature didn't attack. It simply watched, evaluating, judging. After what felt like an eternity, one of the tails slowly extended toward All Might, stopping just inches from his face. Understanding dawned on the number 1 hero. Slowly, carefully, he reached out and pressed his fist against the soft fur. Human. The voice that echoed in All Might's mind was ancient and terrible, the sound of millennia compressed into a single word. I am Kurama. This child is Naruto. He is everything. All Might's blue eyes widened. You're speaking in my mind. Are you the meteor? Did you come from space? A sound that might have been laughter rumbled through his consciousness. We come from elsewhere. Another world. One that no longer exists for us. The golden eyes softened almost imperceptibly as they glanced down at the sleeping infant. The boy's world was destroyed. I was bound to him before the end. Now we are here, in this place of quirks and heroes. How do you know about quirks? All Might asked, then shook his head. Never mind. We need to get you both somewhere safe. There will be questions. No questions. The voice was firm, commanding. All Might felt the pressure against his mind that made his knees buckle. You will take the boy. You will raise him. You will protect him from those who would use him. Kurama's gaze intensified. I cannot remain manifest in this world. The energy required, it would draw attention. Dangerous attention. But I will sleep within him, as I have since his birth. When he needs me, I will wake. I don't understand. All Might admitted. What are you asking me to do? Be his father. The simple word struck Toshinori Yagi like a physical blow. Father. The word that had always seemed so distant, so impossible for a man whose body was failing and whose time was running out. I have watched you, symbol of peace. Through the boy's eyes, even before we arrived, I saw glimpses of this world. I saw you. You are good. You are worthy. Kurama's tails tightened slightly around Naruto. I give him to you freely. Protect him. Love him. And when the time comes, when the darkness that follows all worlds arrives on this shore, let him fight. What darkness? All Might's voice was urgent. What's coming? But Kurama was already fading. His form grew translucent, the brilliant white fur beginning to dissolve into motes of golden light that swirled around the sleeping infant. The 9 tails unwound from their protective circle, and for the first time, All Might could see the child clearly. On the baby's stomach, just visible through the orange blanket, was a series of markings. They looked like whiskers, or perhaps scars, arranged in 3 lines on each cheek. Remember, Kurama's voice whispered, fading like wind through leaves. He is not just a child. He is a legacy. The legacy of a world that refused to die. The legacy of those who loved him first. The legacy of... But the final words were lost as the last of the golden light sank into Naruto's chest, leaving only a sleeping infant and a bewildered hero alone in a crater under the stars. All Might stood frozen for a long moment, then slowly, reverently, reached down and lifted the child into his arms. Naruto stirred slightly, his tiny face scrunching up before relaxing again. One small hand reached out and grasped All Might's finger with surprising strength. The symbol of peace, the man who had faced down countless villains, who had never wavered in the face of death, felt tears prick at his eyes. Hello, Naruto, he whispered. I'm Toshinori. It seems I'm going to be taking care of you for a while. From somewhere deep within the child's chest, he could have sworn he felt a warm pulse of approval. 15 years later. The alarm clock read 5:47 a.m. when Naruto Uzumaki's eyes snapped open. He was awake before the beeping started, a habit his father had drilled into him since he was old enough to walk. A hero's first battle was with their own laziness, All Might always said. Naruto had never been entirely sure what that meant, but he'd learned not to question it. He swung his legs out of bed, wincing slightly at the familiar ache in his joints. Kurama had warned him about this years ago, during one of their rare conversations in the mental space they shared. Your body contains more raw power than any human was meant to hold, the great fox had explained. The chakra I gave you to survive the transition, it's always been part of you, but in this world without chakra networks, it sometimes, rebels. Rebelled was one word for it. Naruto preferred. Made him feel like he'd been hit by a truck. Still, he'd take the aches over the alternative. Without Kurama's power, he wouldn't be alive. Without All Might's love, he wouldn't be human. The apartment was small but comfortable, a 2-bedroom unit in downtown Mizudafu that All Might had secured for them years ago. The number 1 hero couldn't always be there, of course. His duties kept him busy, and his weakened form meant he had to carefully manage his time. But he never missed a birthday, never failed to check in, never let Naruto forget for a single day that he was wanted. Naruto padded into the kitchen and started the rice cooker on autopilot. Through the window, he could see the sun beginning to crest over the city skyline, painting the skyscrapers in shades of gold and orange. Somewhere out there, heroes were already patrolling. Villains were already scheming. And in a few hours, he'd be walking into UA High School, the most prestigious hero academy in Japan, for his first day as a student. The thought made his stomach do nervous flip-flops. You're worried? Naruto jumped, nearly knocking the rice cooker off the counter. Kurama's voice echoed in his mind with the familiar combination of amusement and condescension that the fox had perfected over 15 years of cohabitation. Damn it, Kurama! Naruto muttered, pressing a hand to his racing heart. A little warning next time? You've had 15 years to learn to sense my presence in your mindscape. If you haven't mastered it by now, that's hardly my fault. Naruto rolled his eyes but couldn't suppress a small smile. For all his grumbling, he couldn't imagine life without the nine-tailed fox's constant commentary. Kurama was as much a part of him as his own arms, sometimes more so. Yeah? And yes, I'm worried. So what? Anyone would be nervous on their first day at a new school. This is not just any school, Kurama observed. This is the institution where your foster father trained, where the heroes who protect this city were forged. And you carry within you the power of an entire world. If you cannot succeed here, the fault lies not in your abilities, but in your mindset. Naruto sighed, leaning against the counter. It's not about abilities, Kurama. It's about fitting in. You know what it's like out there. People with visible mutations get stared at. People with quirks that seem villainous get treated differently. And me? I don't even have a quirk. Not really. All Might registered me as having enhanced physiology to explain why I'm stronger and faster than normal, but you bear marks that suggest something else entirely. Naruto's hand drifted unconsciously to his face, tracing the 3 lines on each cheek. The whisker marks. Kurama's physical legacy, permanently etched into his skin. They'd faded slightly as he grew older, but they were still unmistakably there, markers that set him apart from everyone else. When people look at me, they see a mutant, Naruto said quietly. Or they see someone hiding something. Either way, they don't see me. Kurama was silent for a long moment. Child, he finally said, his voice softer than Naruto had ever heard it. You carry the weight of a dead world on your shoulders. You carry me, a being of incalculable power and centuries of regret. You carry your father's expectations and your own impossible dreams. And still, every morning you wake up and you try. You try to be kind. You try to be strong. You try to be the hero that your world, this world, needs. The fox's presence seemed to swell within Naruto's chest, warm and protective. If they cannot see you, that is their failure. Not yours. Naruto blinked rapidly, refusing to acknowledge the moisture in his eyes. When did you get all philosophical, old man? I have always been philosophical. You simply lack the wisdom to recognize it. Yeah, sure. Naruto laughed, swiping at his eyes with the back of his hand. Thanks, Kurama. I needed that. You need to eat breakfast before your rice burns. Naruto yelped and dove for the cooker. The gates of UA High School loomed before him, massive and intimidating in the morning light. Naruto stood among a crowd of other students, all wearing the same gray middle school uniforms, all radiating the same mixture of excitement and terror. He'd passed the entrance exam 3 weeks ago. It had been memorable. The practical portion had consisted of fighting simulated villains in a mock city, giant robots that moved with surprising speed and aggression. Most examinees had approached it strategically, using their quirks to disable the machines while avoiding the civilian targets scattered throughout the arena. Naruto had punched one so hard it exploded. In his defense, Kurama had been yelling at him to show them what you're made of, boy, and he'd gotten a little carried away. The proctor, a tired-looking man with bandages wrapped around his neck, had stared at the footage for a full minute before muttering, "What the hell?" under his breath and passing him anyway. Now here he was. UA High School. Class 1A. The hero course. Hey! You there! Naruto turned to find a boy with gravity-defying blue hair and glasses so thick they looked like safety goggles marching toward him with obvious purpose. The boy's arms chopped through the air as he walked in a way that seemed almost compulsive. You're blocking the entrance, the boy declared, stopping directly in front of Naruto. Other students are having to walk around you. As prospective heroes, we must be conscious of how our actions affect others at all times. Naruto blinked. Sorry? He stepped aside. The boy nodded sharply. Apology accepted. However, I must also note that you appear to be unaccompanied. Are you a first-year student? Which class? I am Tenya Ida, from semi-private academy. I will be attending Class 1A. The words tumbled out with machine gun precision. Naruto found himself both overwhelmed and charmed by the boy's earnest intensity. Yeah? Naruto Uzumaki. Also 1A. He stuck out his hand. Nice to meet you. Ida seized it and shook vigorously. Uzumaki! The name is familiar. You were the examinee who destroyed the three-pointer with a single blow. I watched the footage. Your form was unorthodox, but devastating. Naruto rubbed the back of his neck sheepishly. Yeah, I get that a lot. You must tell me about your training regimen sometime. As one who relies primarily on my engine quirk. Ida gestured to the exhaust pipes protruding from his calves. I am always interested in how other physical-type heroes develop their abilities. Before Naruto could respond, a third voice cut through their conversation. Move. The word was flat, emotionless, and somehow managed to convey absolute authority. Naruto turned to find himself facing a boy with split-colored hair, red on the left, white on the right, and eyes that held temperatures. The left side of his face was marked by a terrible burn scar. For a moment, their gazes locked. Naruto felt something stir deep within him, not Kurama, but something else. A recognition, perhaps. An understanding of pain that went beyond the physical. Then the boy looked away and walked past them without another word. Ida's mouth opened and closed several times. That was Todoroki Shoto. Son of the number 2 hero, Endeavor. How dare he? It's fine. Naruto interrupted, still watching Todoroki's retreating back. He's got his own stuff going on. Ida deflated slightly. You are remarkably understanding. Naruto shrugged. We've all got stuff. Doesn't mean we have to make it everyone else's problem. From within his mind, Kurama's voice rumbled with approval. Wise words, Kit. Though I notice you rarely apply them to yourself. Shut up, Naruto thought back, but there was no heat in it. The bell rang. Ida straightened immediately. We must hurry. Lateness on the first day would be inexcusable. He grabbed Naruto's wrist and began pulling him toward the building at a speed that should have been illegal. Naruto laughed, actually laughed, the sound bright and genuine, and let himself be dragged. For the first time in a long time, he thought that maybe, just maybe, things were going to be okay. The door to Class 1A was enormous. Naruto stood before it, Ida having already marched inside with a declaration about proper seating arrangements and respect for the learning environment. The other students had filtered in one by one, a bizarre collection of personalities and quirks that made Naruto feel almost normal by comparison. Almost. He took a deep breath, squared his shoulders, and slid the door open. 20 pairs of eyes turned to look at him. Naruto's gaze swept across the room, cataloging faces and quirks with the instinctive awareness Kurama had drilled into him over years of training exercises that were really just excuses for the fox to critique his situational awareness. A girl with brown hair and round cheeks smiled at him warmly. A boy with electrified yellow tips in his black hair gave him a lazy wave. A tiny purple-haired kid in the back looked at him with an expression that was hard to read, interest, maybe, or suspicion. And in the front row, a boy with spiky ash-blonde hair and red eyes glared at him with undisguised hostility. Naruto met that glare without flinching. Something sparked between them, not quite recognition, not quite rivalry, but something electric and immediate. Well? The blonde boy demanded. You gonna stand there all day, or take a seat, idiot? A vein bulged at his temples. His hands crackled with tiny explosions. Naruto felt his lips curve into a grin that was half challenge, half invitation. Name's Naruto Uzumaki, he said loud enough for everyone to hear. And I'm gonna be the greatest hero this world has ever seen. Believe it! Silence. Then, from somewhere in the back, a snort of laughter. Then another. Soon the room was filled with chuckles and whispered comments. The blonde boy's glare intensified, but Naruto thought he saw something else there too, a flicker of interest, perhaps, or respect. Bakugo Katsuki, the boy finally said, the words almost grudging. Don't get in my way. Naruto's grin widened. Wouldn't dream of it. He found an empty seat by the window and settled in, watching as the rest of his classmates introduced themselves. Uraraka Ochaco, the girl with the warm smile, who could make things float. Kirishima Aijiro, a redhead with shark-like teeth and a rock-hard personality. Ashido Mina, pink-skinned and bubbly. Kaminari Denki, the one who'd waved at him, whose quirk apparently involved electricity and short-circuited brains. Each name, each face, each quirk, Naruto filed them all away with the same methodical attention he'd learned from years of Kurama's training. By the time the door slammed open to reveal their homeroom teacher, a man in a yellow sleeping bag who introduced himself as Shota Aizawa, Eraserhead, Naruto had already begun to feel something he hadn't experienced since leaving the crater with all might. He felt like he belonged. Do not become complacent, Kurama warned, but even the fox's voice was softer than usual. This is only the beginning. I know, Naruto thought back. But it's a pretty good beginning, isn't it? From the front of the room, Aizawa-sensei was explaining that they'd be having a quirk apprehension test immediately, and anyone who didn't give their all would be expelled on the spot. The class erupted in panicked whispers. Naruto just smiled. Whatever challenges lay ahead, whatever darkness Kurama had warned him about, whatever destiny awaited him in this world of heroes and villains, he was ready. After all, he'd already survived the end of one world. How hard could this one be? The UA High School track field had been transformed into a testing ground. 20 students stood in uneasy rows, watching as Aizawa-sensei outlined the series of physical evaluations they'd be undergoing. 50-meter dash. Grip strength. Standing long jump. Repeated side steps. Ball throw. The same tests they'd taken in middle school, but now with one crucial difference: they could use their quirks. Bakugo, Aizawa called out, his voice flat and uninterested. You finished top of the practical exam. How far could you throw a softball in middle school? Bakugo's lips curled into a predatory grin. 67 meters. Good. Now try it with your quirk. He tossed a white softball to the explosive blonde, then pulled a smartphone from somewhere in his sleeping bag. Bakugo stepped into the throwing circle, wound up with theatrical flair, and launched the ball skyward with a massive explosion. Boom. The ball vanished into the clouds. Aizawa checked his phone with the same bored expression. 805 meters. Remember, all of these tests eliminate the factor of luck. This is a true measure of your abilities as heroes in training. His bloodshot eyes swept across the class. Whoever finishes last overall will be judged to have no potential and will be expelled immediately. The words hit like a physical blow. Naruto heard Uraraka gasp beside him, saw Kirishima's jaw tighten, watched Kaminari's easy grin fade into something more uncertain. Expelled? Someone whispered. On the first day? Aizawa's expression didn't change. UA is free to do as it pleases. If you can't handle a little pressure, you don't belong in the hero course. No. He gestured to the field. Line up for the 50-meter dash. We're burning daylight. The test proceeded with brutal efficiency. Naruto watched his classmates push themselves to their limits and beyond. Ida's engine quirk propelled him through the 50-meter dash in an impossible 3.04 seconds. Yayoro's Momo, a tall girl with a severe ponytail, created a tracking device from her bare arm to measure her throws with scientific precision. Tokoe Mifumikage, whose head was literally a bird's skull, unleashed a shadow creature called Dark Shadow that rippled with barely contained power. And through it all, Bakugo dominated. Every test, every event, he pushed himself to the top of the standings with explosive fury. His red eyes blazed with competitive fire, and more than once Naruto caught him glaring in his direction as if daring him to try and keep up. Naruto, for his part, was holding back. You're being obvious. Kurama's voice rumbled in his mind as he completed his third long jump, respectable, but nowhere near his actual capability. The tired-eyed teacher suspects. I can feel his attention lingering on you. I know, Naruto thought back, landing in the sand pit with controlled ease. But if I go all out, I'll destroy the equipment. What am I supposed to do? Tell them sorry, I've got a nine-tailed demon fox sealed inside me, so my base strength is kind of insane. The explosion child has no such reservations. Bakugo's different. His quirk is flashy, but it's still just a quirk. My strength, it's not from this world. If people start asking questions I can't answer. Your caution is wise, Kurama admitted. But be careful not to let caution become fear. A hero who fears his own power is a hero who hesitates. And hesitation gets people killed. I know. You've only told me 1,000 times. Aizawa's voice cut through their mental conversation. Uzumaki. You're up for the ball throw. Naruto stepped into the circle, the white softball feeling almost weightless in his hand. He could feel the weight of his classmates' gazes, curiosity, expectation, judgment. Bakugo's stare was particularly intense, as if he was waiting for Naruto to prove himself worthy of the attention he'd drawn earlier. What do I do? The question is not what you do, Kurama said quietly. The question is who you are. You have hidden yourself for 15 years, kid. Hidden your power, hidden your past, hidden the very essence of what makes you who you are. Perhaps it is time to stop hiding. Naruto closed his eyes. He thought of All Might, who had raised him with love and patience despite never being trained for fatherhood. He thought of the world he'd lost, the parents he'd never known, the destiny that had been stolen from him before he was old enough to understand it. He thought of Kurama, who had sacrificed everything to save him and now lived within him, watching over him like the world's grumpiest guardian angel. He thought of Sasuke, of Sakura, of Kakashi, of everyone he never had the chance to meet. And then he opened his eyes and threw the ball. It wasn't his full power. Not quite. But as the softball shot skyward, a streak of orange against the blue, Naruto let go of just a little of the restraint that had defined his entire life. He let Kurama's chakra flow through his arm, not in a destructive burst, but in a controlled surge of pure physical enhancement. The ball kept going. And going. And going. Aizawa's phone beeped. For the first time that morning, the tired-eyed teacher's expression shifted, not much, just a slight widening of his eyes, a barely perceptible straightening of his posture. 2,347 meters, he announced. Silence. Then chaos. 2,000? Kaminari shrieked. That's almost triple Bakugo's throw. How is that possible? Yayorozu murmured, her analytical mind already working overtime. Even with a strength-enhancing quirk, the physical limitations of the human body should. Bakugo's explosion cut her off. Not a controlled blast this time, a raw, instinctive detonation of pure fury. The ash-blonde boy's hands crackled and popped as he stormed toward Naruto, his expression a mask of barely contained rage. What the hell was that? He demanded, getting right in Naruto's face. You held back on the other tests, didn't you? You were sandbagging. Naruto met his gaze steadily. I did what I had to do. That's not an answer, you idiot! Bakugo's palms sparked dangerously. If you've got that kind of power, you use it. You don't hide it like some coward. Careful, kid, Kurama warned. This one's temper runs hot enough to burn. But Naruto didn't back down. He'd faced down Sasuke Uchiha at the end of the world. He'd looked into the eyes of a goddess and refused to submit. An angry teenager with explosion quirks wasn't going to make him flinch. You want to know why I held back? Naruto asked, his voice low but clear. Because I'm still learning to control it. Because if I'd gone all out on that dash, I'd have shattered the track and probably taken out half the field. Because my power isn't something I can just use without consequences. Bakugo's glare didn't waver, but something flickered in his eyes. Understanding, perhaps. Or at least recognition. Then learn, he said flatly. Learn faster. Because if you think I'm going to let someone with power like that just coast through this course on half effort, you're even dumber than you look. He turned and stalked back to his place in line, leaving a wake of stunned silence behind him. Naruto blinked. Was that encouragement? Kurama sounded genuinely confused. I think it might have been. In a really aggressive way. Aizawa cleared his throat. If you're all quite finished socializing, we have a class ranking to determine. Uzumaki, for the record, that throw puts you at the top of the standings for now. Don't let it go to your head. Naruto nodded, but his attention was elsewhere. Across the field, Todoroki Shoto was watching him with an expression that was impossible to read. The split-haired boy hadn't spoken a word all morning, hadn't reacted to any of the tests with anything more than clinical detachment. But now, for just a moment, Naruto saw something in those heterochromatic eyes. Interest. Or maybe recognition. The test concluded with Naruto finishing in second place overall, behind Bakugo, who had apparently taken the ball throw competition as a personal challenge and proceeded to dominate every remaining event with explosive fury. Ida came in third, with Todoroki a distant fourth, his half-ice, half-fire quirk used with minimal effort and maximum efficiency. Aizawa gathered them together for the results, his expression as unreadable as ever. Before I announce the last-place student, I should clarify something. He let the silence stretch for a painful moment. The statement about expulsion was a logical ruse. A rational deception to ensure you gave your all. Relief flooded through the class like a wave. Kaminari actually sagged to his knees. Uraraka let out a breath she'd clearly been holding for hours. But, Aizawa continued, and everyone snapped to attention again. That doesn't mean you're safe. The hero course demands everything you have and more. If any of you think you can coast on talent or natural ability, you're wrong. The world out there doesn't care about your potential. It cares about results. His gaze lingered on Naruto for just a moment longer than necessary. Class dismissed. Get some rest. Tomorrow, we begin your actual hero training. The walk back to the dormitories was a noisy affair. Kirishima had attached himself to Naruto's side, chattering enthusiastically about the ball throw and demanding to know more about his amazing strength quirk. Kaminari and Ishido had joined in, turning the walk into an impromptu interrogation session. Seriously, how did you do that? Kaminari asked for the fifth time. My electricity gives me speed, but pure strength like that? That's insane! Years of training, Naruto said, which wasn't even a lie. Kurama had put him through hellish workouts since he could walk. But what's your quirk actually called? Ashido pressed. Aizawa-sensei said enhanced physiology, but that's so vague. Is it like super strength? Or something more complicated? Naruto opened his mouth to deflect again, but a voice cut through the chatter. Leave him alone. Everyone turned. Todoroki stood a few meters away, his expression as blank as ever. He'd been walking alone, as he had all day, maintaining a careful distance from his classmates. You're all peppering him with questions like reporters at a press conference. Todor continued, his voice flat. If he wanted to share details about his quirk, he would. Respect his privacy. Ashido blinked. We weren't trying to be rude, we were just curious. I know. Todoroki's mismatched eyes shifted to Naruto. But curiosity doesn't give you the right to pry. He turned and walked away before anyone could respond. An awkward silence settled over the group. Kirishima scratched the back of his head nervously. Wow. He's intense. He's not wrong, though, Naruto said quietly. He watched Todoroki's retreating form until it disappeared around the corner. I appreciate the concern, guys, really. But my quirk is complicated. I'm still figuring it out myself. Kaminari nodded slowly. Okay, man. No pressure. We're just excited to have you in the class, that's all. Yeah. Ashido's smile returned, bright as ever. We're gonna be classmates for 3 years. Plenty of time to learn everyone's secrets. The tension broke, and the group resumed their walk with renewed energy. But Naruto's mind lingered on Todoroki's unexpected intervention. That one carries burdens, Kurama observed. I can feel them, even from here. They weigh on him like chains. I know. I felt it this morning, when we first saw him. It's like looking in a mirror, almost. Perhaps that is why he spoke. Perhaps he recognizes something of himself in you. The loneliness of carrying power you did not choose. The weight of expectations from those who should have protected you. Naruto thought of All Might, who had never once made him feel like a burden. Who had given him a home and a family without expecting anything in return. Not everyone gets as lucky as I did, he thought. Maybe I should try to talk to him. When the time is right. A noble impulse. But be careful, Kit. Some wounds need time before they can be touched. Yeah. I know. The next morning dawned bright and clear, carrying with it the promise of something new. Naruto arrived at Class 1A to find an atmosphere of barely contained excitement. Word had spread overnight. Their first official hero training session was today, and they'd be learning from none other than All Might himself. Naruto had known this was coming, of course. His father had warned him weeks ago that he'd be teaching at UA this year, part of a new initiative to bring working pros into the classroom. But knowing and experiencing were two different things, and as he took his seat, Naruto felt a complicated mix of emotions swirling in his chest. Pride, certainly. His father was the symbol of peace, the greatest hero alive. But also nervousness. How would the other students react when they saw the connection between them? Would they think Naruto had gotten special treatment? Would they resent him? Stop borrowing trouble, Kurama advised. You'll face what comes when it comes. Worrying now accomplishes nothing. Easy for you to say. You're not the one about to have your dad as a teacher. I am literally inside your head. I experience everything you experience. Fair point. The door slid open with dramatic force, and All Might strode into the room. He was in his muscle form, of course, towering and heroic, with golden hair that defied gravity and a smile that could light up a city. The class erupted in gasps and whispers, phones coming out for pictures, voices rising in excited chatter. I am. All Might struck a pose, one fist on his hip, the other pointing dramatically at the ceiling. Coming through the door like a normal person. Silence. Then Kirishima burst out laughing. That's All Might? He's amazing. He's ridiculous. Bakugo muttered, but even he looked impressed. Naruto hid his grin behind his hand. Only he knew how much effort went into maintaining that larger-than-life persona. Only he had seen his father shrink down to that gaunt, fragile form when the lights went out and the crowds dispersed. Only he knew the sacrifice behind the smile. All Might's gaze swept the room, pausing for just a fraction of a second when it reached Naruto. A tiny flicker of warmth passed between them, father to son, hero to hero in training. Then the performance continued. Today, we begin your foundational hero training. But first, he reached into his pocket and produced a card with the word battle written on it in bold letters. We need to see what you can do in a fight. The class leaned forward eagerly. You will be divided into teams of 2 for combat training. One team will play the heroes, the other the villains. The objective is either to capture the opponents or secure the weapon hidden in their base. He pressed a button on his console, and a screen descended from the ceiling, displaying a randomized pairing system. Names flashed and spun, drawing gasps and cheers from the students. Naruto watched the screen intently. Ida and Ajaru. Ashido and Kaminari. Kirishima and Bakugo. And then his own name appeared. Uzumaki Naruto and Todoroki Shoto vs Uraraka Ochaco and Midoriya Izuku. Naruto's head whipped around. Across the room, Todoroki met his gaze with that same unreadable expression. For a long moment, they simply looked at each other. Then Todoroki nodded, just once, barely perceptible, and turned back to the front. Interesting, Kurama murmured. The universe has a sense of humor after all. You think this is funny? I think it is fate. And fate, Kit, is rarely kind. The combat training facility was designed to mimic a city block, complete with multi-story buildings, streets, and even fake civilians scattered throughout. Naruto and Todoroki stood in the villain base, a tall office building near the center of the mock city, waiting for the signal to begin. Todoroki hadn't spoken since they'd entered. Naruto shifted uncomfortably, the silence stretching between them like a physical thing. He could feel Kurama's amusement radiating through their connection. Hey, he finally said. Thanks for yesterday. You know, with the others. You didn't have to do that. Todoroki glanced at him briefly. I wasn't doing it for you. I was doing it for basic human decency. Something this class seems to lack. Ouch. Naruto winced internally but pressed on. Still, it meant something to me. So, thanks. Another glance, this one slightly longer. You're welcome. Silence again. The comm unit in their ears crackled to life. This is the start signal. All Might's voice announced. Begin! For a moment, nothing happened. Then Todoroki moved. He didn't run, he glided, his left foot leaving a trail of ice behind him as he accelerated toward the building's exit. Naruto scrambled to follow, cursing under his breath. Hey! Wait up! We're supposed to be working together! Todoroki didn't slow down. I work alone. Stay out of my way and don't interfere. He burst through the doors and into the street, immediately engaging the enemy team. Naruto caught a glimpse of Uraraka floating debris toward them while a green-haired boy, Midoriya, he remembered, circled around the side. Todoroki's response was instant and overwhelming. A massive wall of ice erupted from his right side, surging toward the enemy team with enough force to crush buildings. Uraraka screamed and dove behind cover. Midoriya didn't move. For one frozen second, the green-haired boy stood transfixed, his eyes wide with terror. The ice bore down on him like an avalanche, and Naruto realized with sickening certainty that Todoroki wasn't going to stop. Todoroki! Naruto moved without thinking. Kurama's chakra flooded his limbs, enhancing his speed beyond human limits. He crossed the distance between them in less than a heartbeat, interposing himself between Midoriya and the wall of ice. His arms came up in a cross block, and then... crash. The ice shattered against Naruto's forearms like glass against steel. Shards flew in every direction, glittering in the artificial sunlight. Naruto stood firm, his feet planted, his body unyielding. For a long moment, no one moved. Then Midoriya's voice, small and shaking. You saved me. Naruto lowered his arms, breathing hard. The chakra was already receding, Kurama pulling it back with a mental sigh of disapproval at the waste of energy. But Naruto didn't care about that right now. He turned to face Todoroki, who stood frozen at the edge of his own ice field, his expression finally broken, shock, confusion, and something that might have been guilt warring across his features. What the hell was that? Naruto demanded. He was defenseless. You could have killed him. Todoroki's jaw tightened. I had it under control. Like hell you did. I saw his face. He couldn't move. If I hadn't... Naruto stopped, forcing himself to take a breath. Kurama's voice whispered in his mind, urging calm, reminding him that anger wouldn't help. He looked at Todoroki, really looked at him, and saw something he recognized. The same walls he'd built around himself, years ago. The same refusal to let anyone close. The same cold isolation that had been his only defense against a world that didn't understand him. I don't know what your deal is, Naruto said, his voice softer now. I don't know why you're so determined to push everyone away. But using your power like that, holding back when you should go all out, or going all out when you should hold back, that's not strength. That's fear. Todoroki flinched. Behind them, Uraraka was helping Midoriya to his feet. The green-haired boy looked shaken but unhurt, his eyes fixed on Naruto with an expression of awed gratitude. This match is over. All Might's voice announced through the calm. Hero team wins by default. All students, report to the observation room for debriefing. Naruto held Todoroki's gaze for one more moment, then turned and walked away. He had a feeling this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The observation room was thick with tension. Students clustered in small groups, whispering about the aborted match and Todoroki's overwhelming display of power. All Might stood at the front, his smile firmly in place despite the gravity in his eyes. Naruto sat apart from the others, watching Todoroki out of the corner of his eye. The split-haired boy hadn't spoken since returning from the training facility. He sat rigidly in his chair, his gaze fixed on some point in the middle distance, his expression carefully blank. But Naruto could see the tension in his shoulders, the slight tremor in his hands. He is fighting an internal battle, Kurama observed. One that has nothing to do with this exercise. I know. I just wish I knew how to help. Asterisk. Sometimes, Kit, the greatest help is simply being present. Let him know, without words, that you are there. That you see him. The rest will come in time. Before Naruto could respond, All Might cleared his throat. Excellent work today, everyone. We said some impressive displays of power and strategy. His eyes swept the room, lingering briefly on Todoroki. But we also said some concerns. Todoroki, your use of ice was effective, but your isolation from your partner cost you victory. Heroes work in teams. If you cannot trust those fighting beside you, you will fail when it matters most. Todoroki didn't react. Didn't even blink. All Might's expression softened almost imperceptibly. I would like to speak with you after class. And Uzumaki. He turned to Naruto. Well done on your intervention. Quick thinking and bravery are the hallmarks of a true hero. Naruto nodded, but his attention remained on Todoroki. Something was happening behind those mismatched eyes, something painful and raw. Class ended without further incident. Students filed out in small groups, chattering about the day's events. Naruto lingered near the door, pretending to organize his bag, watching as Todoroki approached All Might with the measured steps of a man walking to his execution. The door slid shut behind them. Naruto stood alone in the empty observation room, torn between respect for privacy and an overwhelming desire to help. You could listen, Kurama offered. My senses extend beyond yours. If you wish to know what passes between them. No. That would be wrong. If Todoroki wants to tell me, he will. If not, I have to respect that. You have grown wise, Kit. Your father would be proud. Naruto smiled slightly. He already is. He tells me every day. The days that followed settled into a rhythm. Morning classes with Aizawa, who pushed them relentlessly through academic and physical training. Afternoon hero courses with All Might, who taught them the practical skills they'd need in the field. Evenings in the dorms, bonding with classmates over shared meals and late-night study sessions. Naruto found himself drawn into the class's social fabric with surprising ease. Kirishima was a constant presence, his enthusiastic friendship a warm counterpoint to the day's stresses. Kaminari's easy humor and Ishido's boundless energy made even the most tedious assignments bearable. Uraraka had taken to bringing him homemade lunches, her round cheeks flushing pink whenever he complimented her cooking. And then there was Midoriya. The green-haired boy had attached himself to Naruto with an intensity that bordered on worship. Every free moment found him nearby, notebook in hand, scribbling observations and asking questions with relentless curiosity. Your reflexes during the combat exercise were incredible. The way you crossed the distance in under a second, was that your quirk, or trained response? And your blocking form, you used a classic taijutsu stance, didn't you? I've seen similar techniques in martial arts manuals, but never executed with such precision. Naruto had learned to accept the barrage with patient good humor. There was something endearing about Midoriya's passion, a genuine love for heroics that reminded him of himself, in a way. You pay attention, Naruto observed one afternoon, as they walked back from the training grounds together. Most people just see the flashy stuff. You actually watch the details. Midoriya ducked his head, embarrassed. I've always been observant. It's how I coped before. When I was quirkless, watching heroes was all I had. I'd analyze their techniques, their strategies, their movements. It was like I could be part of their world, even if I couldn't join it. Naruto stopped walking. Quirkless? He repeated. You were quirkless? Midoriya nodded, his expression shadowed. Until 10 months ago. I was born without a quirk. The doctor said it was a statistical anomaly, the first quirkless generation in decades. I spent my whole life believing I'd never be a hero. Naruto stared at him, his mind racing. Quirkless. Like him. Well, not exactly like him. Naruto had Kurama's chakra, had always had it, even if it wasn't technically a quirk. But the experience of being different, of being set apart. How did you get your quirk? He asked softly. Midoriya's eyes widened. I can't really explain. It's complicated. All Might. He stopped abruptly, clapping a hand over his mouth. Naruto felt a smile tug at his lips. So that was it. Midoriya was All Might's successor, the one his father had mentioned in passing, the boy who would inherit One for All. It made sense now, the obsessive note-taking, the analytical mind, the way he watched and learned and grew. You don't have to explain, Naruto said. I get it. Secrets are important. Especially when they're not yours to tell. Midoriya's eyes filled with something like gratitude. You understand? More than you know. Naruto clapped him on the shoulder. Come on. Kirishima said something about a movie night. If we're late, Kaminari will eat all the popcorn. The USJ attack changed everything. It was supposed to be a simple rescue training exercise, a chance for Class 1A to practice responding to disaster scenarios under the guidance of 13, the space hero. The unforeseen simulation joint was a massive indoor facility designed to mimic various emergency situations: floods, fires, landslides, shipwrecks. Naruto had been looking forward to it all week. The day started normally enough. The class boarded the bus together, buzzing with excitement. Kirishima regaled them with tales of 13th's greatest rescues. Kaminari tried to flirt with Jiro and got shockingly rejected. Bakugo glared out the window, radiating his usual aura of barely contained aggression. Todoroki sat alone, as always, his gaze distant and unreachable. Naruto had tried to approach him several times since their combat exercise, but always met the same wall of polite indifference. Todoroki would acknowledge his presence, respond to direct questions, and then retreat back into his shell like a turtle pulling into its armor. It was frustrating, but Kurama's advice echoed in his mind: be present. Let him know you're there. So Naruto sat nearby, not pushing, just existing in the same space. And sometimes, when he glanced over, he thought he saw something flicker in those mismatched eyes. A crack in the armor, perhaps. A hint of the person beneath. They arrived at the USJ to find 13 waiting at the entrance, a majestic figure in a space-themed suit, their helmet gleaming in the artificial light. Behind them, the massive dome of the facility rose like a silver bubble against the sky. Welcome, everyone, 13's voice echoed, warm and welcoming. Today, we will be learning about rescue operations. This is a crucial aspect of hero work, one that is often overlooked in favor of combat training. But remember, a hero's true purpose is to save people. Defeating villains is merely a means to that end. The class listened attentively as 13 outlined the day's exercises. They would split into small groups and rotate through different disaster scenarios, practicing evacuation techniques and emergency response protocols. It sounded straightforward. Manageable. Then the lights went out. For a moment, everyone froze. Then a massive swirling portal opened in the center of the plaza, and figures began to pour through, dozens of them, then hundreds, their silhouettes twisted and menacing against the purple glow of the warp gate. Villains! 13's voice rose in alarm. Everyone, stay back! Protect the students! But it was too late. The villains were already spreading out, surrounding them, cutting off escape routes. At the center of the chaos stood a figure with hands covering every inch of his body, a young man with dried blood on his skin and madness in his eyes. Kurojiiri, he said calmly. Spread them out. Kill the symbol of peace's precious students. Let him feel what it's like to lose everything. The warp gate activated again, and suddenly Naruto was falling.